Welcome to Not So Silent. Oh, it's our mid-election, post-election show. We'll say what you can't. We think we're right. I wouldn't bet on it. This has been, I think everyone is maybe tired of this and expected this. Not sure exactly what we expected, but holy cow. The dumpster fire that is 2020 is just continuing. So hopefully you guys are tuned in.
Post-election, mid-election show.
Yeah, the mid-election show and I guess we're going to be in a mid-election show for like the next 3 weeks is kind of how it feels. So we're going to have plenty to talk about. I really think that everything that happened is really just news companies are just going to drag this out because it's going to keep their ratings really high for many, many weeks. All right. So please follow us at Not So Silent Pod, at Not So Silent Pod. I think we're having a little bit of fun out there. So hopefully you guys can follow us and check out some of our tweets. Also, subscribe to us down here or wherever it is and YouTube and watch our videos. Let us know what you think. Go to notsosilent.com, sign up for a newsletter. There are tons of ways to connect with us. Instagram, Facebook, facebook.com/NotSoSilentPod. All right, so let's get started. We have our mid-election, post-election. I don't even know. It was a disaster. So yesterday was kind of a dumpster fire as the whole year has been going. So I wanted to get quick reaction. So what we're going to do is kind of go around the room real quick and go, there were some good things that happened and there were some bad things that happened. And through this discussion, hopefully we'll really get to a lot of the nitty gritty of what we found yesterday as a whole. Through everything from watching CNN, watching Fox News, watching the Twitterverse blowing up and everything else. So I wanted to we'll just start. I'm going to go around the room here. So Sean, what are some of what you consider your pros from last night or yesterday?
I actually got a lot. I think a lot of positives were massive turnout. And the massive turnout historically has always been told when there's a high turnout, Democrats are going to do really well. And it's still very, very close. I think it's a huge pro that you have so many states in such tightly contested races that it matters in every state. I think that brings a lot more attention to people wanting to use their voice and use their vote. You've got even places where a one electoral college vote can matter. I mean, right now, Biden's sitting currently looking at like 248. And there was a scenario where Trump took Wisconsin and Biden took Michigan, Nevada. He would be at exactly 270. And it'd be those one electoral vote places in like Maine and Nebraska would matter. So I think the positive is that it matters everywhere. We're not just the whole country isn't tuning in to find out what happened in one state, and one state's going to tilt the balance. There's a lot of states that matter. There's great voter turnout, and it's still a really close race, which I think is positive for both sides. More so for Trump, honestly.
So here's where it stands, just so everyone kind of knows as we're recording. Interestingly enough, I've been looking at CNN.com because, Fox News, I'll get to that in a second, has had some potential mistakes, but CNN has been slower to call anything. They have just called Wisconsin for Biden. However, nothing has changed in the vote count since this morning. It's still a 21,000 vote lead for Biden, but they are calling Wisconsin for Joe Biden. So any other pros that you saw last night, Sean, or yesterday?
Well, and I was flipping back and forth between Fox and CNN, and my other pro would be it was coverage about the election. There was no coverage of civil unrest. There was no coverage of attacking each other's candidates. It was just, here's what's going on in the election. So I felt like the news, a lot of our topic around this whole election cycle has been the news has not been news. It's been, biased opinions. But I felt like last night, a lot of the news was just covering the news. You had Fox calling Arizona Democrat, and they were leading the way on that. So,
and many are theorizing today that they can be called out for that and that they are going to have a giant mistake on their hands. Florida 2000, where they called that for Gore. And many are saying Arizona was a big, big mistake. Not only did they come out and call it real early, and no one else has, They then doubled down and had one of their political statisticians come out and say 100% that it is going to go blue. And there are a lot of people, including the governor of Arizona, saying absolutely not. There's over 1 million votes left to count. Now they're saying there's, I think, about 400,000 left to count, and so on. It's kind of a mixed bag out there in Arizona. So, Chris, what say you? Good and bad from the day yesterday. Sean, by the way, you were wrong about most of your stuff. Chris.
I agree with a good amount of what Sean said. Look, it looks like Republicans will hold the Senate. It looks like we will gain somewhere between 4 and 10 seats in the House. And like Sean said, this is devastating, not just for pollsters, but for the Democratic Party. I've been reading up on more left-leaning websites like CNN, ABC, and whatnot. And they're like, the Democratic Party is in shambles. This was supposed to be a runaway victory. They've misgauged the country. Like Sean said, with this kind of turnout, it should have been an absolute blowout for Biden, and it's not. That being said, I do get the sense that Democrats are going to manufacture enough votes to win. Believe it or not, I think our best chance is going to be in Arizona for Republicans. That's the one that I thought, like you guys mentioned, Trump had a lot of momentum. He had about 200,000 votes shy of the lead with 80% reporting. Now with about 70% reporting. Now with about 84% reporting, he's about 90,000 shy. So you do the math, and he may eke out a win there. Trump's son just tweeted out this afternoon that they're going to win Arizona. They're pretty confident of that. So it's not over yet. If Biden wins, I feel like at least we hold the Senate. They can't push through a lot of radical stuff. We have the Supreme Court. We have a bunch of other court appointees we put in place. We won seats in the House. We got a ton of the Cuban Hispanic vote. I've yet to see what the African-American vote is, but I think that's increasing towards Trump. And so things are starting to change, and that should freak Democrats the heck out. Things that they could count on before, they can't count on.
Let me cut you off there for a second. A couple of things I saw, from what I understand, in literally every single demographic, Trump did better, with the exception of white men. Even white women, they said he was up 2 points. Yeah. These are exit polls. We don't know right now, but
so those polls are good.
Well, no, it was a tweet that I saw. So again, the exit polls I think are a joke. Maybe it wasn't exit polls. I don't know where it came from, but that was something I saw. If that's accurate, that'd be amazing. A couple of things that you mentioned about Arizona. Again, the Trump campaign is saying very clearly they think they're going to win. Here's the thing. I guess I have a major question, because we're getting into pros and cons, which is good, but maybe we just need to discuss what is going on with how this is working. Because last night I went to bed at about 2 or 2:30 when it was like clearly everything was just turning off and no one was going to announce anything. As of this morning, though, from 7 a.m. until about now, almost nothing has changed. I keep looking at the number of votes in Wisconsin, and outside of this giant jump for Biden that they just gave him 200,000 votes, then it has sat with a 21,000 vote lead for Biden. Arizona, the same. It's roughly 90,000 vote lead, and it hasn't changed. What is going on? Someone needs to start explaining to the American public what is happening in these states. What's going on in North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, where they just can't, they're like holding on and no one's reporting. It's just getting to the point where I hate to say it, it just feels like there's something amok.
I decided to look into that a little bit. And from what I've gathered, there are states out there, like the state I live in, Kansas, that haven't reported all their precincts, but it is just so decided. So Kansas, 85% are reporting. Trump's got a 200,000 vote lead. There aren't even enough votes for Biden to catch up. So there are places where they're not done counting. Nebraska, 94% reporting. South Dakota, 85% reporting. North Dakota, 89%. Alabama, 90%. Mississippi, 81% reporting. Versus Georgia's at 95. It's just close. So I was surprised by that too. So that's why I started digging into how many are reporting. And I was also surprised to see that it apparently isn't all done.
All right, fair enough. All right, so let me go to my pros. I have a few more, a little bit out.
And by the way, New York is at 67% reporting, and Trump is only down by about 700,000 votes there. So he could absolutely take New York in a landslide if we get some of the same Trump mail-in ballot action that Biden's getting in Michigan and Wisconsin. So.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to be more excited to hear our cons from the night. Let me give you my couple of pros. I agree with you, Chris. The Washington gridlock is a big pro. And I think where that comes, I think where you're going to see the pro is if anyone's got money in the stock market and watching that today, the NASDAQ is up 4% today. The Dow Jones up 2.25%. And I think the biggest reason why it's up is because anything that Biden wanted to do from an economic standpoint, if he doesn't have the Senate, he's not going to get done. So his tax reform isn't going to happen at least for 2 years and so on. So we're going to get a pretty good shutdown. You're wonderful, Chris. So other positives that are going on is I thought Florida was a big pro. I thought what you saw happen in Florida, it was awesome. Was to see a massive vote, and you really saw, and this will be one of my other pros, identity politics kind of getting thrown out the window. The idea of a monolith vote anywhere, specifically Florida, you saw the Hispanic vote was very mixed. You saw the black vote. You saw Miami-Dade County being very mixed. So I thought Florida, which really exposed identity politics to be slowing down, was a big pro. Here's a couple of other pros. Did anyone else see what happened with Candace Owens?
Nope.
I know she was on the Daily Wire for a bit, but I didn't listen to the whole segment. That's all I know. What about Candace?
It's official. It's official. Candace Owens is moving to Nashville, and she's going to be working with the Daily Wire.
Oh, I love that addition. Oh, I love Candace Owens. Excellent.
So that was a real big pro. That was a big pro yesterday. Two other things that I was a pro. If you're a lawyer in any sort of voting or election law, it's a big pro for you because your job just got more job security because this thing is going to be a mess. And last but not least, I think the polls and the media got absolutely exposed yesterday. I think it was a referendum on the media and polls that this is like a joke, that this is a mess. You guys need to go away. In fact, today, what is going to be our top 5? We are going to do the top 5 new jobs for pollsters who are soon to be fired. So top 5 new jobs for pollsters. We're going to do that at the end. Because if you're a pollster right now, you got to scramble. I know there are some really good jobs. All right, so let's talk about the cons from yesterday, the bad stuff that you're seeing from the election. So we'll start with Chris.
I don't have a lot of cons yet. Look, I want to see how things turn out. Things can change. I think one of the cons is going to be, well, prognostication. Sean and I were wrong. There was no decision last night. It doesn't look like there's going to be a decision anytime soon. I'm reading Nevada's not going to have an updated vote count until tomorrow afternoon. So it sounds like they're holding the updated vote counts until certain time periods. There's going to be litigation. I think they filed for a recount. The Republicans have in Wisconsin. It's within 1%. They legally can do that. And these recounts will at least assure us that the votes were real or not, right? And I think that's important. So I do think we're going to have a clear picture. I don't know that I have a lot of negatives. It's easy to be doom and gloom, but again, I think it's good to have 2 big parties in some regards. I agree with Sean that as much as my guy's not winning outright, there's a lot of positives there for him. I don't have a lot of cons right now, except the stuff we've already been harping on, which are, the media sucks. Pollsters suck. They've totally missed the boat. I think Trafalgar was probably closest out of all of them again, but I don't have a ton of cons. I'm still waiting to see how it plays out.
Well, I got plenty. So Sean, do you have any cons? Because I got a nice list.
I mean, my one giant con was not just a con, it was an actual con. I was conned. by using the website Predictit. So for all of our listeners that like listening to us bet, and we've used Predictit for some bets, and we officially disavow Predictit. You heard it here first. We've disavowed white supremacy before. We're disavowing Predictit. It's a horrible website. It's the worst website. You should never use it. It is a giant con. I bought so many Trump shares, doubled my money, and the website was locked for several hours, unable to sell any of my shares. Woke up this morning to things shifting, the winds shifting, and my shares being massively down. I wanted to bet more on other elections and other things on Predictit. I will never use Predictit again. That was my biggest con.
Yeah, that was we are an anti-Predictit podcast. All right, Chris, do you have a con?
I had it, then I forgot it, but it'll come back to me.
That's good. So we're anti-Predictit. Sean, any others?
I guess this is small. I didn't really think it was necessary for the candidates to both make their announcements, and their news conferences were a little silly. They're trying to say like, yeah, we're going to win, but they also can't, I thought that was a little silly and unnecessary.
I wholeheartedly agree. Last night I watched both of them give their announcements. Biden seemed like he has all campaign, a little bit senile, not fully there, but maybe that was because it was really late at night. Trump seemed like he has the entire time, pretty angry and pissed off and ready for a fight. I felt it was totally unnecessary. At this point, the campaigns are over. Whatever they're saying isn't going to matter. It's going to be decided by the election committees or what have you. So here are my cons. My cons are, first and foremost, I think we all know the con is we're sitting with an election, and the head of the free world, the United States, is kind of in this humongous divide, and everyone's frustrated. And now we have like 7 states that we're dealing with these like hanging chads. And it's more disappointing. Again, the major pro we can't state enough is that the Senate is still held by the red, which I think is really important that you have the 2 separate bodies, so nothing significant happens, which is great. So my other cons from yesterday, they're not all from a national level. A con that I saw, it's just disgusting when I see this. Joy Reid from MSNBC called Clarence Thomas Uncle Clarence, and really no one said anything. And somehow she's going to keep her job and move on, and it's not going to be a big deal. But the stuff that comes out of their mouth is so racist and nasty. And I'm not black, so I'm not truly personally offended, but I'm disgusted that one side can do that, but then point their fingers at the other and say they're racist. So that just really pissed me off. Kim Foxx, for anyone who follows Illinois, where I just left, Kim Foxx was the district attorney that was in charge of the Jussie Smollett case. And she just lambasted with how bad she has been and how many drug offenders she puts back on the street and everything else. And yet she got widely reelected, and everyone that I know is shocked by that. And it wasn't even like a contested race there. That was shocking to me and sad. Drugs gone wild. I don't know if you guys saw this. Portland has decriminalized all drugs. All drugs. So heroin, doesn't matter.
It's Amsterdam out there.
It is the red light district of America. And I get it, Sean, you're a libertarian, so you really want to stay out of my way, government.
I'm good for that.
I am not good
in Kansas. I had to vote to make sure it was okay for alcohol to be sold without food or something along those lines. I mean, we'll get there, Portland, but give us like another 100 years.
And I get your libertarian viewpoint, but I'm sorry, if you can't see how weed is the gateway drug, I think yesterday proved it with states like what Portland just decided. Secondly, DC decriminalized all psychedelic drugs. It's just we're moving more and more and more in that direction. It just feels like we are headed down Sodom and Gomorrah, but that's just me. The potential corruption and ballot dumps are shocking. You guys may be not following it as closely, but if you look at Wisconsin and Michigan in the races, last night when everyone went to bed, the races were separated by 150,000 votes or whatever for Trump in the lead. And no kidding, if you look at the charts, literally in one ballot dump, Biden went up by like 5,000 votes. It wasn't like a slow climb like you're seeing in Arizona where Trump's slowly climbing back in. Just overnight, 100% of votes went in for Biden. It just has to show some concern. And then on top of it, watching Twitter meddle in the election is mind-blowing when Trump retweeted someone who showed those charts and said, this is concerning. This has to at least be signs for a court battle. Trump retweets it. That post gets flagged or taken down or whatever. Get out of our way, Twitter. Like, stop it. You've got to get out of our election. Like, it's really frustrating that people can say Russia meddled in their election and then Twitter does it. And then my last thing was CNN being better than Fox. I was really disappointed to see Fox just I think they missed the mark, and it was trending on Twitter. Newsmax and OAN were trending on Twitter just saying, Fox, you suck. And they did. I mean, watching CNN not call these states because they're really close and seeing a lot of people in the know saying, be careful with Arizona, be careful with these states. And they're just doubling down. I didn't understand what Fox was trying to do. So again, I like that it's fair and balanced, but they're just looking like they might be wrong about Arizona. And if they're right, we're going to be talking about like a very, very small percentage of votes. And I was not a fan of Fox last night. So those are my cons.
Right, I remember mine.
All right, what is it?
And this is a big one. It's that the polls were wrong primarily because people did not want to say they're voting for Trump. It is not a good thing when you are worried about your health and safety for saying you're voting for a gigantic political candidate. Like, even when I was at the playground the other day, I realized, something casual came up with some people there about the election. And, I just didn't say, I'm just like, yeah, we'll see how it turns out. I'm like, hopefully more one than the other. And I'm like, why don't I just say like, yeah, go Trump? Like, why am I afraid to do this? Because the left is so violent. You never know who's going to attack your kids, your family, your house, your business. Like, that is a major, major problem that has not been called out by the left. We've talked about that before, but that was obviously proven last night, given the overwhelmingly, good job Trump did last night in the election. As far as the Oregon drug thing, by the way, I'm good with states doing what they want to do and let them be Sodom and Gomorrah, but my state doesn't have to be. And I'll just go to the states where, they're not legalizing heroin and there's needles all over the streets. So let them kill themselves. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Again, I am frustrated. I guess this is my con too. And this is what I actually said to my wife, which is both sides are doing exactly what they said the other side would do. Or they're doing what the other side said they would do of each other, which was the Trump campaign came out and said the left is going to steal this election. There's all this mess with ballot harvesting and ballot dumping, and the mail-in vote's going to be really crazy, and they're going to try to change this thing after the election day and everything else. And sure enough, that's kind of exactly what's happening. And the left is coming out and saying, count every vote, take your time. But it's weird because all of those votes happen to be only in Democratic strongholds like Philadelphia and Atlanta. And all of a sudden, those are just populating in, and boom, exactly the amount that Biden he's getting.
It's weird that this narrative was set up a couple weeks ago by the left, too, that there's going to be a red mirage. And then, these votes would come in. It's a little alarming that they predicted that when they should have been walking away in a landslide anyways. So I don't know. It makes me nervous.
And by the way, what else did they predict? They predicted Trump wasn't going to make it peaceful as he left. It feels like, and I hate being the Alex Jones here, conspiracy theorist, but it feels like this is what they set up a month or two ago. And now it's all playing out the way they wanted it to. And again, I don't like playing the Alex Jones conspiracy theorist because I do believe there are enough people who are sitting in every single ballot tabulating facility in America who either are just good people or they're from the other side, the right or the left, watching it happen, making sure no funny business is happening. But you're starting to hear things come out like in Arizona, they were being given Sharpies to fill out their ballots. and that automatically throws them out. But it was only Trump supporters.
Supposedly Sharpies are okay. I mean, a short Google search says that's okay, but I don't know if that's for sure or not. One thing's for sure, nobody's going to trust whoever's elected.
I mean, that's the problem, is both sides that we're not going to leave going like, oh, well, so the other guy is in, I guess we'll deal with this for 4 years. No matter which way it goes, it's going to feel contested probably for the next 4 years. We're going to be talking about illegitimate president and all this other crap. And I just think it's hurting our democracy. Yeah. And whoever has the farting noise, whenever you guys move your chair or whatever, that's awesome, by the way. So those are my cons from yesterday. Let's talk about the polls, because this is obnoxious that you have something like Wisconsin, that the Washington Post poll came out and said Biden was up 17 points. And as it stands, he is up less than 1%. And there is like a 99% in. What are you going to do if what is going on with these polls? Do you really believe it's people are just afraid to say to someone over the phone that they're a Trump voter?
Yep, I do.
Sean?
Yeah, I do.
Wow. I guess I look at it and go, I might not tell my neighbor I'm a Trump supporter, but what do I have to lose telling some random telebot on my phone that I support Trump? Not that I would answer. I think it has more to do with these polls are completely outdated in their methodology, their sample size, and everything else. And what's really happened is a majority of the polls, either their methodology is wrong or they're okay with what the poll shows them as long as it shows their guy is in the lead.
I disagree. At least when you look at 2016's, one of the big questions the Trafalgar polling place, whatever, asked was, who do you think your friends are voting for? And that gave them a more accurate reading. So I think people are afraid to say who they're voting for because, I don't really know who this person is calling. They obviously have my number, which means they probably have my address. They have my demographics, and now they're going to put me on some kind of a list. I don't want to be on any more lists. I'm concerned about that. Yeah. I don't want to be doxxed or targeted
or they don't want to be on a Trump email list because they'll get 400 a day like I did.
I've chosen you to be one of my 100 people that donate $40. That's it. Just you out of 100. Like, come on.
So I think the media got exposed as well. I think the media that thought all of America was on their side and that everyone wants this crazy blue wave and this, I think they're just staring at Twitter too much, thinking that's a good representation of America, and it's far from it.
So, question for you: do you think that there's a level of progressivism that the people of America will stand up and go, hell no, we're not going there? Or do you think it will continue the slow and gradual decline towards people marrying their dogs and having 8 wives and, changing themselves into 8 different genders and calling themselves a dolphin, you name it? Like, what do you think?
Yes, I do think that's what's happening. I mentioned that a little bit to Sean, which is, it just feels like the needle moved 1% more. We didn't have this giant swing, this blue wave, as they call it. But we had the needle moved another percent to craziness. And you're seeing it in small areas where there's a Black Lives Matter activist who was elected for state Senate. There was a trans Vietnamese something or other. I don't know. It was the first ever trans minority, something crazy in Delaware. You're just seeing more and more of that AOC kind of pop up. AOC, Omar crushed it in their 2 campaigns. It just feels like
I think that's good for the right. I think that's bad for the Democratic Party for the next 4-year election cycle.
Why?
I think the more you have those extremes, it's the same way that people have attacked the Republican Party for having Trump as the leader of it right now. And there were a lot of Republicans that were slow to get on the Trump train, because he felt he was almost a radical Republican, a radical conservative, a populist conservative, had some certain fascist tendencies. So when you have those people in your party, it becomes a little bit more, I guess, infectious, and it affects other people and the way people perceive your party. I think that is the single biggest the traction right now from the Democratic Party. Aside from the Joe Biden's been in there for 47 years and not done anything, and you have a lot of career politicians drain the swamp. I think this election cycle, more people were anti-socialism than they were pro-drain the swamp. So that's, I don't know. I just think having them in there as these older swamp people in Washington retire or are voted out, and you have these crazy young progressive, not even progressive, just way off the charts progressive. I think that really makes it hard for the Democratic Party to be united on a platform.
Well, not to mention the amount of kids Republicans are having versus Democrats, it's vastly in favor of Republicans. It's not to say that your kids are always going to turn out with the same political ideology, but that's a pretty big thing in your favor that, we're going to see a generation of more conservative young people, I think, coming through the ranks. So we do have that.
I hope so. I do like, the one thing I like that most people from, people who voted for Trump maybe don't like, but I like gridlock. And I used to think when I was younger that was bad and why doesn't the government get more stuff done? And I'm starting to realize that it's the best thing that can happen is gridlock forces us to not really do all that much because we have a great country the way it is. And if we are going to make any changes, it should be stuff that's pretty clearly should get changed.
So let me give you your Christmas list here of the one thing you want for Christmas out of this election. I'll give you mine first. So mine is I want the post-election results and polls to show massive changes in race and gender voting preferences, and I want to get away from politics being so focused on intersectionality, race, gender, sexual preference, and all those things, and having those things be political. And I want politics to be ideology, policy-driven. That's my biggest hope that comes out of this election. If you made me pick a winner right now, I would rather have that than be able to pick the winner. That's my one big wish from this election.
All right, Chris.
What is it? My big wish?
Yeah. What is your wish?
Your election Christmas present.
Well, I did want to see liberals cry, and they're not going to cry unless Trump gets elected. So I want to see, and I got to stop saying liberals because I think liberals are starting to have more in common with conservatives than ever before. So leftists, I want to see more videos of people in their bathroom crying, thinking the world's going to end. I don't think the world's going to end if Biden's elected. I think it sucks, but I don't think it's going to end. But I love seeing how these people overreact. I want to see more actors and actresses thinking that we actually care what they think. I just love when they post that stuff. It's very entertaining. All
right. So mine is really simple. I want to see the media transformed. I want to see journalism back, and I want to see the media in a heavily partisan, strong left-leaning media disbanded or disrupted significantly. I'm actually surprised that it's this close of an election, given what I feel like Trump had to battle with from CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, NBC. It was like an unfair fight. And the fact that it's even close, and then with the polls that came out and everything else, it just felt like propaganda and state-run media. And I'm just so over it. It's so hard to trust anyone in media. Now people are going to these small one-off Twitter feeds that seem to be more accurate, or these one-off polling like the Des Moines Register or the Trafalgar Group, because they can't possibly trust ABC News. Really? That's shocking to me. So I want to see the media disrupted heavily. So that's my Christmas wish from this. So I agree. I guess it's probably, I'm more into that now that I know that the Senate's going to stay red than I am even who wins the presidency. So good question, Sean. All right. Are we ready for our top five?
We're ready.
All right. Let's have a little bit of fun. Sean, get the banner up.
Yeah. So number five.
Top five. So we got our top five. Today's top five is going to be a fun one. So all these pollsters, all the people who work in the polls, Frank Luntz and Skyrwalt, and all these people who are working in the polls, that they have one job that comes about basically every 4 years, but I guess arguably every 2 years, to come up with accurate polling data to help us understand which way the country is moving. Well, they will be out of a job. I can't imagine they're going to keep their jobs. They should all be fired and have to go find new jobs. So we are going to help them out. We're kind of like the Indeed for pollsters. We got some new job openings for them, or jobs that they should go into, careers they should get into. All right. So Sean, your number 5 job for a pollster to go do.
Gambling. They're really bad at predictions, so I think I could win some money if they were gambling more.
All right. So they're going to be professional gamblers, which 4 states just ratified. So there's more options for them to go do that, which is fantastic. So yeah, sit at a poker table with those guys. All right. So my number 5 is they can be an Uber driver out in California. That is the one piece of good news. Uber is going to stay afloat. So Uber stock should be up, because pretty scary. It looked like Uber was going to have to treat all of the drivers as employees, but they are now allowed to just be contractors, which will keep them from benefits. So they can be Uber drivers.
Okay, my number 5. How about another career where they can be professionally wrong all the time? I think weatherman would be a great job.
All right. Chris, number 4.
Skin and organ donors for Joe Biden to keep him alive for the next 4 years.
All right. That was good. All right. Or they can be like the guys in Weekend at Bernie's who have to like hold them up. All right. So Florida just passed a $15 minimum wage yesterday. So any minimum wage job in Florida, not a bad earnings if they can make $15 an hour.
Yeah, but they're going to get more Dem voting up, so I got to veto that.
All right.
I got number 4. This depends on who gets elected. So they're going to be collectors. If they're working under the Biden administration, it's a tax collector. If they're working under the Trump administration, it's a student loan debt collector. But, I mean, if people are dumb enough to answer the phone for these pollsters, maybe they'd make good collection officers.
That's a good idea. I like that.
There you go.
This one is.
Whoa, hang on. Are we doing snake vote?
Snake vote? All right. You want my 3?
Yep.
I heard Burisma pays well.
Nice.
Ukrainian energy consulting gigs.
I like it.
Well done. All right.
Well, they're going to get better.
My number 3 is a shroom dealer, because now that is legal, so they're going to start dealing some shrooms, psychedelics.
Okay. So this is a legit open position, very necessary with Kamala Harris as VP. It's going to be a professional food taster for Biden. Professional food taster. That woman is going to poison that man. Like, you don't want to try that food first.
So they'll be the canary in the coal mine. All right. You're number 2.
Statistician for Fauci.
Pretty good. All right. So this one, they can work only in a few states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia. And they only can get this job for about the next week or so, but they can be a ballot dumper. They can drive around and drop off all the ballots that Biden needs to take over those states.
And it can make their polls correct. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Man, you were right on the money with my number 2, which is ballot counter. If you've got time to do these polls, maybe we wouldn't be at 85% reported if you were just counting the actual ballots instead of doing these incorrect polls.
Yeah.
And then my number 1 is go ahead and test the COVID vaccine for all of us.
Nice. I
don't know if that's a job or a volunteer opportunity, but COVID vaccine testers.
All right. Mine, my number 1, they can work at the Fox News decision desk.
Oh.
Just start calling everything really early, likely incorrectly.
Well, I've got another serious career, especially when they are really good at making the wrong people feel right. Corn fluffer.
No, Chris, for pollsters, not jobs that you want. This wasn't the Christmas gift.
Job that I had, I'm trying to quit.
So one
benefits are
before
too
we wrap up, Taylor, there's one stat I forgot to hit earlier that you guys might appreciate. So looking at popular vote, Trump increased in the popular vote by a larger percentage and number than Biden did over Clinton.
What is the popular vote at right now? I know Trump's losing it, but what is the popular vote at?
Just a few minutes ago, I checked. We're at 70,370,000 votes for Biden, 67,565,000 for Trump. Both over 4.5 million more votes than the 2016 election.
What's that percentage difference?
2.2% different.
And
you're looking at
there are
you're looking at a
That's
7.3% more Trump voters this election than last election, and 6.9% more Biden voters than Clinton. And another fun fact: over 50% of the new voters were Trump voters.
I had heard, and this might have been from Shapiro's podcast, that somebody had said, it might have been Nate Silver, who said, if the popular vote's within 3%, Trump wins hands down.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't make logical sense that he wouldn't. So again, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. So one last stat that I forgot to mention that is mind-blowing, and I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts were on this. When you hear about the amount of money that was spent on campaigns, especially these like stupid losing campaigns, do any of you guys think like, wow, maybe we should just take this money and actually make our world better? Like $100 million to try to upset Lindsey Graham, another $100 million to try to take out Mitch McConnell, both of which were like kind of stupid ones to even be in the race. Like $200 million to those two Senate races got thrown away, essentially, just got burned up. Not to mention the amount of money that Lindsey Graham and McConnell then had to spend to compete. And the billions of dollars.
Whoa, Taylor. Do you know when that money went to? Do you know what companies own advertising?
The news.
They wanted them to think they had a chance, and they shilled them for hundreds of millions of dollars.
What if the media is just playing both sides? What if they are?
It's amazing. It would be the most brilliant move, but they're not that smart.
Homo for president 2024.
All right. Well, on that, we're done for the day. Holy cow. We will have our post-election show part 2 coming up next Monday, where we're probably maybe going to know who our president is, but we're probably then still going to be battling it out in court. So hopefully you guys like this. Again, follow us at Not So Silent Pod, at Not So Silent Pod. Maybe Sean put me back on screen. There we go. At Not So Silent Pod. And Twitter, facebook.com/Not So Silent Pod. Also go to notsosilent.com. Follow us there. Follow us on YouTube and share this on your socials. All right. Goodbye.
Hey, so you want to know, like, all right, there's like a few reasons how I know I've gained new levels of fatness, right? Number one is when brushing your teeth, you start to feel like your fat jiggle in different places, okay?
Been there.
Number two is when running downhill, like on the mountains of Seattle, I thought somebody was clapping behind me, but it's the fat from my arm, like whacking my back. And it was weird because I just thought some jerk was clapping and then hiding behind a tree. And then I realized my fat is clapping for me. 3 was when like I got out of the shower and I felt water dripping on my unit, but there shouldn't be. But it's because my gut was over my unit so far that it created like a little overhang for water to drip directly on the unit. That was a new level of fatness. And then there's another one. My little puppy loves to bite a lot, and like she'll like even bite your head, but she can't really bite my head. But she bit my chin. But it wasn't my chin. It was my second chin. Like clearly just my second chin. Full on grip. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's there. No matter what I try. So that's like my 4th level of fatness as I enter middle age here that I've just walked into. Sounds like you're only on number 4. I hit 8 like last week.
Yeah, I would think way to catch up.
Wait till they start biting your breast.